Tonight's story isn't just fiction. It's inspired by real reports, real disappearances, and real places people no longer talk about after dark. Across forests, mountains, and remote trails around the world, there are cases that don't quite make sense. Experienced hikers vanish without a trace. Search teams find footprints that simply stop. People report hearing voices, familiar voices, calling them deeper into the wilderness when no one else is there. Some call it coincidence. Some call it nature. Others believe there's something else out there, something that watches, learns, and waits. So begin with a warning. If you ever find yourself alone in the woods and you hear someone calling your name, make sure you can see what's calling you. Turn off the lights, settle in, and listen carefully. Welcome to Ember Keeper Stories, and this story is The Silence Between the Pines. Nobody in Greythorn liked talking about the forest after dusk. It wasn't superstition exactly, at least that's what they told outsiders. It was respect. That's what the word they used. Respect for the land, for the old trails, and for the things that didn't belong to them. Daniel Reeves didn't believe any of it, which is why, on a damp October evening, he drove past the final streetlight at the edge of town and parked beside a rusted sign that read, Greythorn National Forest. Enter at your own risk. He grabbed his camera, checked the battery and hit record. Day 1, he said into the lens. Greythorn. Site of at least 11 missing persons cases over the last 20 years. Official explanation, lost hikers. Unofficial, he smirked. We'll see. The first thing Daniel noticed was the quiet. Not silence. No forest is ever truly silent, but a thinness to the sound. The wind didn't rustle properly. The insects hummed but faintly, like they were far away. He walked the main trail for nearly half an hour before he saw the man. An old figure stood just off the path, half hidden behind a pine trunk. He wore a thick coat despite the mild weather and held a lantern unlit. You shouldn't be here this late, the man said. Daniel lowered his camera slightly. Park's still open? Not this part, the man replied. Daniel chuckled. I'm just hiking, filming a bit, nothing serious. The man studied him for a long moment. His eyes looked wrong. Not in a dramatic way, just unfocused, as though he were listening to something Daniel couldn't hear. Have you heard it yet? The man asked. Heard what? Replied Daniel. The silence. Daniel gestured around them. Sounds like normal forest to me. The man shook his head slowly. No, not yet. He turned and began walking deeper into the trees. Wait! Daniel cried. Do you live out here? But the man didn't answer, and within seconds, he were gone. Daniel kept walking. The trail narrowed, roots pushing through the soil like veins. His camera picked up everything, the shifting light, the thickening fog, and the way the trees seemed to crowd closer. He checked his GPS, still on the marked route, still heading north, but something felt off. After another 10 minutes, he saw it. The same fallen log he had passed earlier, split down the middle, covered in pale fungus shaped like small ears. He frowned. That's weird. He turned in a slow circle. The trail behind him didn't look familiar. In fact, it didn't look like a trail at all. The ground was smooth, undisturbed, no footprints, no path. Daniel's smile began to fade. Okay, that's a problem. Probably just veered off a little bit. He pulled out his phone, and there were no signal. It started as a single note. High, clear, and almost musical. Daniel froze. Another note followed, slightly lower, and then another. It sounded like somebody whistling a tune, but not one he recognised. He turned toward the sound. "Hello?" The whistling stopped. The forest seemed to hold its breath, and then it resumed, closer this time, and wrong. The pitch shifted unnaturally, like a recording played at different speeds. The rhythm stuttered, repeating the same three notes over and over again. Daniel lifted his camera. "Alright, if somebody's messing with me, this ain't funny." The whistling came from behind him now. He spun. Nothing. Just trees. Then, very softly, from somewhere just out of sight, "Daniel." His blood ran cold. He hadn't told anyone his name since he got here. 3 days later, Greythorne organised a search. Daniel's car had been found at the trailhead, untouched. His camera bag was missing. Sheriff Alan Mercer led the effort. He'd seen cases like this before. Hikers who'd underestimated the forest, wandered off, and never made it back. But there were details that bothered him. No tracks leaving the trail. No signs of a struggle. And the locals, they weren't surprised. "They never listen," one woman muttered as the search teams assembled. "They come looking for stories, and they become one." Mercer ignored her. "Stick to your sectors," he told the team. "Radio in every 15 minutes, and we find him, and we bring him home." They entered the forest at dawn. By noon, 2 volunteers were missing. They found the camera at dusk. It was sitting upright on a rock, still recording. Mercer picked it up carefully. "Bag it," one of the deputies said. "Not yet." He pressed play. The footage began with Daniel's introduction. Normal enough, confident, and curious. Then it shifted. The trees looked darker, the light dimmer. The whistling echoed through the speakers. One of the deputies flinched. "What is that?" "Keep watching," Mercer said. On screen, Daniel was breathing heavily, running. "It's following me," he whispered. It keeps sounding like people I know." The camera jerked wildly, catching glimpses of something moving between the trees. Too tall, too thin. Its limbs bent at the wrong angles, folding and unfolding like a puppet with broken strings. And the video cut briefly. When it resumed, Daniel was crouched behind a fallen tree. "I think it can't see me if I don't." The sound of a footstep interrupted him. Heavy, deliberate. Then, from just beyond the log, "Daniel?" The voice was perfect. Warm, familiar. "Mum?" Daniel whispered. Mercer paused the footage. "That's enough," one of the deputies said, pale. "No," Mercer replied. "We need to know what happened." He hit play. Daniel stood slowly. The camera tilted upwards, and for a single frame, just one thing. A face stretched too wide, eyes too large, a smile that didn't belong on anything human, and then the screen went black. Later that night, Mercer visited the old man. He found him exactly where Daniel had described, just off the trail, lantern in hand. "You knew," Mercer said, and the man nodded. "I warned him." "What is it?" The man hesitated. "Not one thing," he said finally. "Many, or maybe just one, wearing many shapes." "That doesn't help." "It's not meant to." Mercer stepped closer. "People are disappearing." "They always have." "Then tell me how to stop it." The old man looked at him with something like pity. "You don't stop it, you survive it." He raised a finger. "There are rules." Mercer sighed. "Of course there are." "Listen," the man said sharply, "or you'll join them." After a moment, Mercer nodded. "Fine, I'm listening." The man began. "First, if you hear something calling your name, don't answer. Second, if the voice goes quiet, don't move. Third, never follow a familiar voice unless you can see the face clearly. And fourth, if you see something that looks human, pray it doesn't see you." Mercer frowned. "Is that it?" The man shook his head. There's one more. What? Go on then. The old man's gaze drifted towards the trees. If you realise you've been walking in circles, you're already waited too long. On the second night, Mercer returned to the forest alone. He didn't believe in monsters, but he believed in patterns, and this, whatever it was, had one. He followed the coordinates where the camera had been found. The forest felt different at need, denser, closer, like it were watching him. He checked his watch. 11:17 p.m. The silence came at 11:19. It wasn't gradual. One moment the forest was alive with sound. The next, nothing. No wind, no insects, no distant animals, just a hollow, pressing quiet. Mercer froze. Second rule, don't move. He stood perfectly still, heart pounding. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then, footsteps. Slow, circling him. He kept his eyes forward. Didn't turn, didn't react. The footsteps stopped. A voice spoke. Alan? His breath caught. It was his brother's voice. His brother died 10 years ago. Alan, it's me. The voice moved closer. I need help. Mercer clenched his fists. Third rule, don't follow familiar voices. Please, the voice whispered. I'm scared. Something brushed his shoulder. He didn't flinch, didn't move. After a long moment, the forest exhaled. Sound rushed back in, and the footsteps were gone. Mercer didn't sleep that night. He returned to the town at dawn and reviewed the footage again, frame by frame. There was something in it, something he hadn't noticed before. In the background of several shots, barely visible between the trees, shapes. Not one creature, many, watching, waiting. He leaned back in his chair. This isn't a predator, he muttered. It's a system. Something that lured, tested, selected. He fought the rules. They weren't arbitrary. They were survival guidelines, meaning people had encountered them before, meaning someone had lived long enough to learn them. He grabbed his coat. Time to talk to that old man again. Sheriff Mercer was last seen entering Greythorn Forest at 2:43 p.m. the following day. He left his car at the trailhead. His radio was found 2 miles in, still functional, repeating a single transmission. They're not copies. They're learning. Don't let the message cuts off. Search efforts were suspended after 4 more volunteers went missing. The forest was closed indefinitely. Officially, the case remains unsolved. Months later, a memory card was delivered anonymously to the Greythorn police station. It contained a single video file. No timestamp, no metadata. The footage begins in darkness, heavy breathing, then a click. A flashlight flickers on. Mercer's face appears. He looks older, exhausted. There's no way out, he says. They don't just mimic voices anymore. They understand them. He turns the camera. The forest behind him seems wrong. The trees are too straight, too evenly spaced, like a copy of a forest, rather than a real thing. I think I crossed over, he continues. Or it crossed into us. The sound echoes behind him. Footsteps. Many of them. He swallows. If anyone finds this, don't come looking. Burn the trails. Close the forest. Don't... A voice interrupts him. His own voice. Alan, it says from behind him. He freezes. The camera trembles. Slowly he turns. The screen glitches, and for a second, dozens of figures stand among the trees, all of them wearing his face, smiling. Then the video ends. Greythorn Forest remains closed. Locals still avoid its borders. Sometimes, on quiet nights, people report hearing whistling from the tree line. A simple tune, 3 notes, repeated, and occasionally if you listen closely, you might hear your own voice calling you. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and I'll see you next time. But until then, stay safe and keep the embers burning. Ta-ra!